Hi, this is Bruce Himmelblau with Blue Sky Video Productions, where today we're discovering how to find your purpose and passion with Matt Berrafato, the elephant hunter. And this is not your typical elephant hunter because he doesn't hunt real elephants. He hunts your purpose and your passion. So welcome to the show, Matt.
Hello there, Bruce. How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much for starting what you did. I do not hunt real elephants. That's a great way to start because
every time I Google you, I find elephant hunting and tusk hunting and poachers in Africa.
Exactly. It's bad things. It's bad things. And that's okay. People, when they start to hear what I'm talking about, they can tell it's not a real elephant. And it's exciting because elephants are big. And when things are big in your life, how do you work them into your life when it's something that's important to you? So I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Good. So let's start off with an overview of who you are, what you do, because you're not actually a business coach. You're more of a personal coach.
Absolutely.
And people always have their business goals. Because remember, somebody asked me about my purpose and my passion. The first thing I think about is what am I doing for a living and how do I get it done and how do I sell it?
Absolutely.
But you offer more than that.
Absolutely. So thanks for asking that question that way, because it's really important to. So I'm more of a personal coach than I am a business coach. I work with business coaches because they are usually the ones who are working directly with a business owner and the business itself. And what you can't separate a business owner from their personal life. And just like you can't separate your job from who you actually are. Anybody who says they can, I think that they're sort of kidding themselves. So I like to get involved with really what's important to you on all levels. Your career is just one of those levels. Your career arena, is encompassing because it talks about our livelihood. It talks about how do we pay our bills. It talks about how do we care for our family. And yet, you can't do all those things without being selfish about who you are and what's important to you. And a lot of people forget about that because the last thing you want to do is end up at the end of your career and find out that the ladder that you've been climbing all this time has been leaning against the wrong wall. So I get involved with really bringing on top of the table things that are important to you on all levels. So your family, your mental arena, your spiritual arena, your physical arena, and those are all things that have a big impact on your career arena as well. So that's how I like to tie it together.
Excellent. So when you define your purpose, I remember when I first got started in my business, I created a vision board, but it was also a personal vision board. And I remember putting up a sailboat on that vision board, as well as a video camera and some other things. Never got the sailboat, did get the camera. So I guess a portion of that got done. So do you work with vision boards or do you recommend vision boards?
I do. I recommend them highly because what happens when you do a vision board, Bruce, you get a specific picture in your head of what it is you're really striving for. And why that's important is the more you can articulate that that you understand it, the more how the subconscious works on it. So a vision board does that to you. Now, I have some things on my vision board that have been accomplished. Like you say, that camera you got. What's the next version of the next camera that you might want is a lot of times what happens with that. I've always find it very interesting. A lot of people put a car on there. Well, what happens once you get your car? Well, I don't know. Maybe there's a different kind of car you want at a different time of it. And I like to put a new picture and label it right over that other picture on it. So it's interesting. I think that the power of it's like writing something down. When you write a goal down, you're 3.5 times more likely to accomplish it than when you don't write it down. And having a vision board gives a picture of it, and it's like writing it down. So I'm all for that. It's interesting when people write on a vision board. How do you can have a vision board for your company and your business goals, but it's easier to get it for your personal goals because you're just like I can see myself doing that. I can see myself traveling to Europe. I could see myself on a cruise. I could see myself graduating from college or writing this book and seeing the book materialize in front of your eyes. So I love vision boards.
So how does one even get started? How does one define their passion or their purpose? And are those two different things? Are those the same thing? Are they combined?
That's a great question. They're different things. I really think that if you look at the definition of purpose and passion in the dictionary, it's a very different they're different like this. One's over here and the other one's over here. And with regard to that, your passion is something that you wear on your sleeve. It's like an emotion, okay? Your purpose is something that's deep within inside of you. People can't see your purpose. Sometimes you yourself can't see your purpose, but everybody can feel and touch their passion, okay? So what I always like to, I actually came up with a new business card this year that is called Purpose or Passion, which comes first. And actually it's a round business card. I actually have one of them right here. It's sort of a fun card. I have a business card that shows purpose or passion, which comes first. And I just flip the card and say, I don't know which one comes first. Well, I don't know. But if you don't know what your purpose is in life, don't be discouraged, because an awful lot of people don't know what their purpose is. And what I like to say is, if you don't know what your purpose is, I know where you start. Where you should start is something you're passionate about. And people usually go, well, that's sort of odd. And I said, no, it's not odd, because I know I can help identify what you're passionate about. Even if you can't, in a sit down with you within 20 minutes, I will have on the table a number of your passions, and you will be sitting there going, oh my gosh, I forgot how passionate I was about these things. And that's the key. So I have a formula on how do you find that, because a lot of people are frightened. They're really afraid to talk about purpose if they don't know why they're on this planet. Because you know what, Bruce, here's the question. Why are you on this planet? And a lot of people don't like to look at that question. And especially if they don't know the answer. I love talking about these things, and people go, you're weird. I say, that's fine. I'm sort of weird. But you know what? What's neat about it is you're going to love being weird about your own passions. You're going to be, when I say weird, don't get confused with weird. You're going to be excited about your own passions. And when you get excited about your own passions and your purpose start to meld together, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was missing that. Where did that come from? And that's a lot of, you're leaving clues and you're not paying attention to the clues. That's what's happening.
So you're like a passion geek?
I'm a passion geek. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be weird. And tying that into kind of with business is, there's a saying that goes, if you love what you do, you never have to work a day in your life.
That's right.
Because it's not really work to you. It's your passion of what you like to do.
Right. So how many people do you know, Bruce? And I've asked this to everybody. Does anybody know of one person that doesn't love what they do? Yeah, I know a lot of people that don't love what they do. And what they don't realize is, because they don't love what they do, other people can tell. And if it's your business that you don't love, but you're very good at, people can tell. You may be losing business just because you're not showing that you love what you do.
Right.
And that's a balance. When I talk to a business coach, when we're trying to get to a place like that, people are really, it's really funny. When I look at myself, I always talk about career in two arenas. You got two arenas, career 1 and career 2. Career 2, okay, is what people pay their rent or mortgage with. They're usually very good at it, but they don't love what they do. Career 1 is what they love to do, but they're not making a living at it right now. But what's cool about, if you can get career 1 and 2 close together, before you know it, you're going to sit there and go, just the saying of what you say, if you do what you love, you'll never work another day in your life. Well, in my book, it says, if you do what you love, if you are touching something you're passionate about, time disappears when you do that. And if that is happening, then I'm just saying, pay attention to it, because there's a clue, a big clue that's tied to your purpose if time disappears.
Right. In some cases, people call it a side hustle because they're doing it on the side. They're not, and they may be making a little bit of money on it, but it's not paying all the bills.
Well, and it's, what's interesting when you say a little side hustle, it's funny. My side hustle was my elephant speaking. When I talked about elephants, my elephant, certainly with the book. When I did coaching one-on-one, I didn't realize that was why I'm on this planet. And yet I wasn't making a living at it. And when I would actually touch anything elephant, literally I came alive. Whereas when I was talking anything employee benefits, which is I still do that, but it's not what I love to do, people could tell that I wasn't in love with that. And it was really strange when they'd say, you're so excited about this. I love talking to you about this. I don't love talking about that. Well, there's a problem if that's your business. And right. So when you say a side hustle, that's a great way to do it. If you're doing something on the side and you get so jazzed up by it, if I was coaching you, I would say, let's pay attention. What's happening when that happens for you? What is going on inside of you? And usually you're not even aware of how how you light up when that happens. It's really interesting.
Because there are some people actually who volunteer. I know some people who are business coaches who also coach soccer.
Yes.
And and they even do it as a volunteer basis, or maybe there's a little stipend with it, but their passion is working with those kids.
Right. And the thing about that, that person doesn't realize how. Let me take a step back. I started doing a new talk this year was called Purpose or Passion. Or, I reframed it. I said, what are you passionate about is what the talk was. And my whole premise of the talk was, what you and I don't realize is that when we get passionate about something, we inspire other people. We inspire other people by us getting passionate about it. And here's what I always say is, who are we? And I'm speaking to myself. Who am I to steal other people's opportunity to be inspired by me because I'm not being passionate about something, because I'm embarrassed, because, oh my gosh, I'm working with these kids and coaching. And no, people don't realize that they are energized. When I get excited, you get inspired. And when you get excited, Bruce, I get inspired. Yep. And that is one of the key elements to life. And if you're not touching, because, oh my God, you ever see someone, oh, you don't want to hear about this. No, I want to hear about it if you're excited. That's what people, they're flabbergasted. When I love going to a barbecue and you're with some people, we're going to get back to that when COVID-19 we're going to start doing more of that. And I can't wait, because I love to say, I just can see when someone's really excited, and I start asking more questions. Oh, you mentioned this about your soccer team. Tell me about that. What is it that gets you? Why do you love it so much? And before you know it, these people are going on and on and on, and time is disappearing right in front of their eyes. And I'm just smiling. They're going, what are you smiling about? I'm going, I'm just excited by you being excited. I am inspired by you being excited. That's how you find your purpose, Bruce, is when you tag into one of your passions.
And a lot of times when you get someone who's really quiet, who's kind of standoffish, who's an introvert, if you start talking about what they're passionate about, all of a sudden they become very, very talkative.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that interesting how that works? But the thing is, what I have to be always very conscious of is stop, even when I'm excited and I'm telling a story, as soon as I see them sort of being drawn into my excitement, that's when I will now stop and ask them something about them. And then all of a sudden I start looking for a spark. And it's really easy to see the spark. And think about any networking event you've ever been to. When someone is really jazzed up about their business and about something, like you say, that let's say they're doing a service trip, and they just did a service trip and they're just on fire on it. I just feed that fire, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, I didn't mean to be hogging all the time. I said, no, that's a good thing to hog the time, because I love when someone is excited and passionate about music and they're just going forth on it, because that inspires me. It really does.
And so is there ever a completion point to your purpose or to your passion?
What do you think?
Or is it a never changing goal?
What do you think?
I think as a learner of life, I always continually educate myself. During the past 3 months, we've had a slowdown on some of our outside production. Mm-hmm. And so I filled that time with more courses. I've learned more about digital marketing. Mm-hmm. I've learned more about sales. I've learned more about marketing itself. So I'm filling the time to make myself a better person.
There you go. So now here's the key to that. And that's why I asked you for your answer to that. Because you asked me, does it ever, once you arrive and you figure out your purpose, what happens? Well, here's why the elephant philosophy is, it's, to me, it is just mind-boggling, mind-blowing, because you never arrive. If you think you've arrived and you say, oh, I know my purpose and now I'm doing it. Well, what is going to happen is if you jump into that pool, Bruce, your purpose pool, what's going to happen is you're going to give birth to new elephants. So when you're doing the courses you're talking about and you take a course, something's going to get triggered in there. If this is attached to your purpose of why you're on this planet, you're going to all of a sudden give birth to a new elephant. You won't even recognize it at first. And before you know it, you look on your desk and go, what the heck is that? That's a birth of a new elephant because it's something really big. So for example, just to give you an idea, when I first started to do my speaking and I would touch people with this elephant philosophy, and all of a sudden they kept telling me, Matt, you need to write a book. Matt, you need to write a book. Matt, you need to write a book. And I'm going, really? No, I don't. And then eventually it got to a point where I knew I had to write a book, but I kept doing this. And then all of a sudden, under my desk was this elephant called this book. And my book that I wrote was about me writing my book. How do you eat that elephant? One bite at a time, Bruce. That's what happens with the elephant philosophy. When an elephant is born, that's something very important to you. That is where you're normally going to get overwhelmed by the elephant if you're not careful. And what happens with this philosophy is just like any big project you and I have ever done, right, Bruce?
Yep.
You break it into little pieces into a little bit at a time. And if you do it that way, what you're doing is keeping your toe in that important thing, and it keeps you energized. And I wrote my book 10 minutes a day, Bruce. Now, it took me 7 years to write it, buddy. But you know what? That's what people are most intrigued with. They go, how did you do that? And I say, that's what anything in life is like that. And so that's why my coaching, when it's attached to purpose or passion, it really starts to explode. And that's where I always explain it like this. If this is the water in your life, Bruce, what happens when the water that you're in starts to come up to your mouth? You're okay like this. Then all of a sudden, when it comes up to here, when the water goes over your nose, you don't care about anything else, right? So what the elephant philosophy does is it helps lower the water of everything that's going on in your life. Because when you can get the water down to at least here, you can breathe, right? When you get the water down to here because you're organized about what's most important to you, you start to look around and go, look at the colors, look at the trees, oh my gosh, the world is beautiful. But that's when the water's down here. And if you're not organized about what's most important to you, that's why we get overwhelmed. And that's why a lot of people don't touch their most important things because the water gets too high quickly. And then you go, I got to pay my bills. And before you know it, that's what happens. So that's my formula.
So here is a link to your book, Elephant Hunting. The type is so small, I can't really read the subhead.
Right. But, so there's two things. My original book was 15 years ago, which is really crazy. So I wrote this 15 years ago, and the subtitle before was Discovering and Accomplishing Your Most Important Priorities in Life. Okay. I have a 15th anniversary edition of this book is coming out by the end of this summer. And I'm very excited because it's going to be elephant hunting again, but it's going to be the new concept of the elephant concept now is how do you find your purpose? It's actually finding your purpose, because deep within the whole elephant philosophy is about how do I uncover the answer to the question, why am I on this planet? Because you know what? The older we get, Bruce, okay? Now I'm only 39, okay? So you got to know that, all right? I'm only 39. I know the gray beard is a little bit, it throws people off. Okay, the calendar says that I'm 62, but I don't pay attention to that. I'm 39. But I do know there's an end game. And so one of the new concepts I brought into the anniversary edition is this end game of the purpose continuum. Where are you on your purpose continuum? You start over here on the left, which is when you were in, let's say, 8th grade, and then it comes over to here at the end of your life, maybe 95. My dad's dad lived to 99. He's 92. And if God willing, if I live as long as him, I got another 30 years. But you know what? I know there's an end game. If you're over on this side of your purpose continuum, it starts to say, hey, if you have limited time in your life, are you touching those things that are most important to you? There's you've always heard on your deathbed, Bruce, no one ever says, I wish I would have spent more time at the office.
Right.
No, they never say that. They always say, I wish I would have spent more time doing what I love to do, more time with the people I love, more time with God, whatever it's going to be. It doesn't really matter, but that's usually what they do. And I have a formula on how do you find it? How do you get to this? And I think as you go through these questions, I'll tell you the formula, because it's really simple. It's not easy, but it's simple.
So how do you get started? Do you talk with someone like you? Do you just talk with friends? Do you go and start Googling something on the internet, or what?
Yeah, that's funny you ask it that way. A lot of people are not willing to even admit that they are not quite sure why we're on this planet. So they won't even admit that to somebody. Where do you start? A lot of people never start. Usually they'll hear about me from someone else. They'll talk, like you and I we've had many conversations. And you know what? A lot of people say, there's this guy you need to talk about. He's got some interesting things. So I get referred into a lot of people. And then where do I start? First of all, I always offer a free coaching session, because I don't know how to give you a taste of the elephant philosophy. Because it's really, even if you read my book, people they can't take a taste unless they really start to reach down deep inside of their core. And that's what I try to do in that first session. They don't realize I'm going to go deep real fast. And a lot of people, when they say go deep, what do you mean? Well, what does it mean to go deep, Bruce? It means to talk about what's important to you. And a lot of people just, actually, my first question, a lot of times I say, what's the biggest challenge in your life right now? That's the first question I always ask. And people nonchalantly, they go, oh, I'm struggling. And they don't know that I'm going to run at that. And they go, oh my gosh, what are you doing that for? You go, well, it holds the secret to a lot of things. And I can let you take a taste of it, because that's how I do that. So that's how you get started is you really start to look at, if people want to actually, a good starting place is my book. Now, again, if you've never, you know what, Bruce, if you've never pondered the question, why am I on this planet? You've already turned the station on what you're listening to right now. Because it's like, why would I want to know that? Well, yeah, but if you have pondered the question, those are people that are going to be very intrigued with what I'm talking about. And that's when they start to scratch the surface. And then they start Googling. And with your help, because I love what you do, you're going to help me when someone starts to Google this stuff on YouTube, that my stuff starts to come up. And that's happening now, but my hope is that it happens much more. And that's what your power is, of what you do.
So according to the book by Adams, what was it called? Was it Restaurant at the End of the Universe? The meaning of life is 23.
What is it? 23 what?
That's it. That's the answer.
Is 23.
So, it was basically a series, End of the Universe. Douglas Adams, I think, is the author.
Oh, cool. I have to look that up. I've not heard that one.
So it's basically a whole life story where they put a universal calculator together, and the Earth was the key proponent of the calculations, but they blew up the Earth like 15 minutes before they got the answer. And so
I love that. Yeah, it's really funny. I love sharing my message of hope. And usually I have to be okay with people who have never pondered this question, why are you on this planet? And I'm okay with that now. I used to try to convince other people, hey, you got to ask yourself that question. Not anymore. I really look for those people that have pondered that. And if you've not found the answer to it, I challenge you to touch the material that I talk about, because I'll tell you what, you're going to be intrigued with the answer of that. You already know the answer, but you haven't dug deep enough inside of these things that are very close to you.
And I got that wrong. It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
Restaurant in the Universe was part of the series.
Okay.
And the actual answer is 42, not
42. I love it. I've heard that book before. Now that you said the other title, I have heard that. I have not
so again, how do people contact you? Why would people contact you? I guess is a more philosophical answer. Like, yeah. What is the purpose of contacting you?
You know what? I think that my biggest target, the people I love working with most, are people that find themselves in the final third of their life. That's my favorite target. And people go, whoa, that's a pretty scary place. Well, quite honestly, if you take a look at who's the oldest living relative in your life, Bruce? That's the kind of thing I want you to think of. Divide their age by 3. And if that person, like my dad at the time was 90 when I first went through this calculation, I divided his age by 3 when I was, and so when I was 60 years old, I'm in the final third of my life if I live as long as him. And now when I know I'm in the final third, I'm over on this side of the purpose continuum. Now that question of why am I on this planet becomes that's a different question when I'm closer to the end game. Okay. And that's the problem. That's what, if you don't want to talk about the end game, you probably don't want to talk to me, but that's okay. But usually if you've actually looked at it, if you've lost someone that you love recently, if and this COVID-19 has really opened up, because what my character that I love to introduce to people is a guy named COD. That's your checkout date. And that's called the Grim Reaper. No one likes to talk about the Grim Reaper. I love the Grim Reaper because you know what? On this planet, Bruce, everyone dies. Okay? Unless you figure something else out that I don't know about. But on this planet, everybody dies. And if you figure out why you're on this planet before, and all of a sudden you start seeing your end game is close by, you're going to want to really focus on what's important to you. Because then you're going to see that, oh my gosh, I don't want to die tomorrow and not do what only I could do. Right? Yep. That's the thing that drives me. When I go to a funeral, when I see someone talking or someone talks about, I just lost his loved one, I always try to get down. It re-energizes me. Matt, are you paying attention to everything that's important to you? And that's why people would come to me. And again, my website, elephanthunting.net on the screen is the best way to reach me. Matt@elephanthunting.net is the actual email address. And check it out. Take it for a test drive, because that free session, you're going to be surprised when we do the free session, because you're going to go places that probably you've never touched in a while, if at all. And when you do, you'll never want to leave that place. And that's when you never want to leave that place. Then I know I've affected your life. And that's part of why I love that you had me on here. And there is a formula. It does work. You just got to be willing to just jump into figuring out what are you passionate about. And if you know what your purpose is, guess what? Then are you doing it every day? Most people who say they know that I'm on this planet, are you doing it every day? They're going to go, well, and I go, well, we need to talk. Because really what happens when you know why you're on this planet, are you putting everything in order of those things that are most important so you can use your gifts the best way that God intended?
Yeah, so actually you brought up a point. I've always thought of it differently. My thought was, if that one person who did that one thing didn't do it, well, maybe someone else would have done it. But I mean,
maybe not. Maybe not. The book that you're going to write, no one else can write. You ever think about that? I've got a story to tell about my hockey background, my hockey career, my hockey. Maybe the next time we get together, I can share a little bit of that. But I've got a story to tell that if I don't tell the story from my perspective, it's not going to happen. And so who am I to rob you of being inspired by my story or the story of the people that I have touched with my hockey background?
Excellent. Well, thank you. And then here's one last thing for our followers, people watching on live or watching on the replay. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is BSVPTV, or follow us on Facebook, which is also BSVPTV, and turn on notifications. So when we go live next week at 11 a.m. Central, 12 noon New York time or Eastern time, you get notified. And again, share this out, please. And if you have questions that you didn't put in the comments, actually, we do have a response here. Before we sign off, Brian is asking, my purpose is to live an amazing life, connect with others on a human level, and have fun.
Awesome. I love it. And you know what? If you're living that every day, Brian, God bless you. And what you are is an inspiration to other people when you touch that. So I love it. Awesome. Awesome.
Great. And then thanks, love your passion. And again, it is showing your passion, showing your enthusiasm, not coming off kind of laid back and like, okay, well, whatever happens, is like driving your point to a point where you're excited to get other people excited.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Bruce. I really am thrilled that you had me, and we will be in touch. You know that. Thanks again.
Thank you much. And let me end with our final banner as we close this out.